Hey, what's going on, guys? Mike Glover, actual fancy way of saying I'm actually Mike Glover. This is my channel on YouTube. If you guys don't subscribe, make sure you do that. Make sure you hit the notification tabs, and make sure you go to Fieldcraft Survival's channel as well. A lot of things that we get asked often that I'm answering on my own YouTube channel, this one, is derived from Fieldcraft Survival. So we don't like to duplicate efforts, but you'll get a lot of free content over there. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification tab, and leave your egregious and rude comments. One of the questions I got asked on the Fieldcraft Survival side is, Mike, do you really carry a Sig P320 in everyday carry? One, I am on board the Sig train. That took me years. The first time I ever shot a Sig was actually this pistol out of the box for the first time. And I'll tell you from my experiences in special operations, seeing the Navy guys use SIGs made me dry heave a little bit. The first SIG I ever received was 17 years ago on one of my first detachments. When I left, they gifted me a SIG 220 45 ACP, full size, like massive double action, single action pistol, which is beautiful. It has a Deo Presso Liber crest, which means free the oppressed, which is the SF motto. And I hate that gun, like super hate it. And the reason I hate it is because it's not practical. I actually tried to shoot IDPA with that pistol and lost to every gun that was in the competition because it's slow. Single action, double action is the hammer, which is one action in conjunction with the single action of the hammer being cocked. And in one direction, you have your single action. Or you have a pistol like this that is a P320X carry that has just a single action, just one action of pulling the trigger and the gun goes boom, like a Glock, which is single action only. A lot of people say it's safe action only. It's single action only. As far as I know from going to the JTAC Glock's armor school, it's a single action only pistol. Now, the reason I didn't like SIG is because it was clunky. It had a lot of height, a lot of weight, no polymer frames. The whole thing was like steel, and it was double action, single action. So it reciprocated slow, and I used to make fun of the Navy guys when we were on target, and the only use of their P226 pistols was with a can and shooting out the light, which they would miss. And then they'd compromise the op, and then we'd have to go in there and rescue people and stuff, and they'd be all jacked up. Joking aside, that really happened. But joking aside, there wasn't a lot of intended use for the SIG, especially in the Army's special operations. Now, we went from 1911s at the SMU level to Glock 22s and Glock 19s, and different variants of the Glocks. I've used them in special operations almost my entire career. We came out of the Army into SF, and then from SF out of this gun to the Glocks from Berettas. Like, the Beretta is the worst pistol ever manufactured. You know how I know that? Because I was an 18 Bravo, and I worked on more Berettas with broken locking blocks than any pistol and any gun that I've ever touched. And so it wasn't the foreign AK-47 or PKM, it wasn't the AR-15, it was the locking block that was fracturing on M9s, on Beretta 92F pistols. Horrible. But my opinions have changed. Because here's part of it, when SIG started getting the right people in the right positions, including their engineers, special operations buddies of mine, practical shooters, competitive shooters, the best in the world, the Lindsey Bunches, the Dan Horners, the Max Michels. When they started getting these guys, it started changing everything. So I was like, I'm intrigued. So I picked up this pistol out of the box, and this by far is my favorite everyday carry pistol. Here's a few reasons why. Out of the box, I think it's one of the most accurate pistols. It has a stippled, in this case, a stippled frame. That's all modularly adapted, by the way. You could buy these pieces and parts separate yourselves and modify them yourselves. But it's polymer. It's got a polymer frame. Super lightweight, compact, pretty thick, but that allows me more real estate on the support side of the frame. So one of the major issues is on a Glock, my big hand, these are big hands, on a Glock 19 or a Glock 17 would lock the slide catch or slide release, depending on what school you go to, right, in nomenclature. But because this frame is so thick, so high, this allows me plenty of real estate to not only not lock that down to induce a malfunction, but also gives me good grip with my support hand and vicing the grip on the pistol, which is what we teach. You can go to our free YouTube video on Get a Grip on Fieldcraft Survival's channel as a proof of concept on how we teach grip. So that allows me and affords me plenty of real estate, not worrying about inducing a malfunction. And what I love about the setup, being single action with a flat trigger, is I don't have to manipulate this trigger. Many intermediate to beginner shooters don't do that in the first place. So if I give you an example of this, it would be a lot of shooters under stress especially will bounce their finger off the trigger. On a flat trigger, that's more forgiving than a groove trigger like a Glock that has one of its 3 safety mechanisms built into the trigger as a safeguard to drop safing it, will pitch the gun left and right, reducing accuracy. This is super forgiving. Look, I've heard the arguments and debates about this particular pistol and the idea that they just magically go off. I've actually reviewed some of the cases myself as somebody who was interested in working with SIG, and what I found was no evidence that these guns from the onset were wrong. Now, there were situations in testing and R&D where the pistols were having drop issues, but that wasn't in the commercial market or the commercial sector. So the bottom line is, I've been carrying this pistol for years, and it is one of my favorite everyday carry pistols. The 365 XL is another one of my favorite pistols to carry. Mike, well, why do you carry so many damn pistols? Because I operate the outdoors, living in different environments. This pistol, for me, being a bigger dude, you're not going to see this pistol inside the waistband when I stuff it inside my pants. Like, Fieldcraft sweater, you got nothing, right? But if you're a smaller person of stature or width or just size, that potentially could be an issue. This in a Patagonia bag, not a problem. But depending on the person, right? I can get away with carrying this because I live in Heber City, Utah, the greatest city and the greatest town on the planet, by the way. But there's lots of fly fishing places. So to each their own. Let the operational environment in which you live dictate the carry pistol that you're going to carry. I don't have a one end-all EDC, but the pistol I carry the most is this Sig 320X carry. It's lightweight with the ability to carry 21 plus rounds in this magazine inserted with not a lot of signature. It is the best pistol and bang for the buck. Here's what I'll tell you, and I'll leak this information now as this releases. I'm working with Dave Mods, who's a good buddy of mine from Idaho, by way of Hawaii, and we are working on an executive line of this pistol for a special run of 24 pistols that are custom modified through Sig 320X carries that are blank, that we have modified for the tactical advantage. I'm not looking for tactical disadvantage. I'm looking for every means to get the most bang for the buck and increase my tactical capability. So it is going to be released, and the catch for this pistol that's going to be released is going to be released through Fieldcraft Survival, but the catch is you have to earn it. You have to go through a training weekend with me where I'll teach you in 2 days of curriculum of live fire, but also self-protection, where we will go through different scenarios to be the responsible citizen that is capable of carrying a pistol after conducting comprehensive training. That is an executive line. That is a numbered line, and that is only available if you train with me, Mike Glover. That sounds very egotistical of me, like you can only get this pistol if you train with me. Well, that's the deal. That's the catch, guys, because it's not about the gun margin in sale, because that's not a big margin. It's about making sure that when we put guns in people's hands, we're doing the due diligence of training them as well. Not just in, hey, what are the gun handling and marksmanship tactics, but the self-defense and the self-protection tactics all around, fully encompassed. The scenario, how you operate under stress, the things you can get away with and the things that you can't. So expect to see that here in the near future. Look, I like answering your questions because, especially when you're constructive in your criticism and you're like, hey man, I wonder about this, I wonder about that. If you have those kind of questions, leave them in the feedback below. I'll make sure our guys curate that information to segue into different pieces of content because we always got the question. And for the most part, we always have the answer. If not, I'll defer you to somebody that does. Fieldcraftsurvival.com, MikeGloverActual.com, Mike Glover Actual on Instagram, Fieldcraft Survival on Instagram, and Mike.A.Glover on IG as well. Come train with us at Fieldcraft Survival. Till next time, peace out, guys.